The big thing when it comes to the No Kings Day and protests in general, hopefully this is not a Summer of Love 2.0. This is not going to continue throughout the entire administration. I 100% believe in the right to protest, but I 100% also believe in the right in getting your behind out of a situation if you do not want to be there. So you find yourself caught up in protest turned riot because you had to go run errands, you went to go see a buddy, you were out on a hike, you were out on a run, you were taking your kids on a walk. These are the items that I would recommend that you have with you, near you, or available to you at all times. This is a comprehensive list. This is the stuff that I'm going to be having with me. You can mix this up however you want to. Also would suggest some stuff that I don't have quite with me. Now, the biggest thing here is first, before we dive into the items, and I'll fast forward and put some chapter markers down below, talk about when I start talking about the items themselves, because first we're going to talk about what the heck to do if you're in a protest that you voluntarily went to or you got caught up in that turned into a riot or becomes, violent. So first, primary action is to avoid and immediately departure the area. That I think that kind of goes without being said. Your primary goal is to avoid any proximity to protest events when possible. I mean, No Kings literally has posted on their website where all these protests are going to be. Some of them you have to register for, and then they'll disclose where they're going to be at. If you want to do that, that might make it easy for you to be informed. Now, that's a primary thing that you want to do. You need a contingency plan as well. Let's just say you happen to come upon a protest that you didn't plan on being at. You should identify that, maybe let your friends or family know that could be going to that area, and then discreetly leave the area just in case, because you never know how the things may turn out. So primary is to not go there at all. Contingency plan is to identify and leave. Now, how do you conduct yourself if in a protest? Be professional. All right. Excuse me's and please and thank yous. Those go a long way. I know a lot of times when you go to the club, I don't know if you've ever been to the nightclub before, but there are touches that you can do to people to let them know you need to walk by them. I would say avoid those touches. At the club, if you touch someone at their lower back, it's an indicator you want them to move out your way. If you touch someone on the elbow, it's usually an indicator you want them to move, or you're trying to get their attention because you want their number. At a protest, use your voice. Okay, excuse me, hey, can I get past you? All that type of stuff, because sometimes people are already amped up, they're protesting, their adrenaline's going. If you start putting your hands on people, that may not go well. So professionalism works well in those type of events, especially with some of the gear I'm going to be suggesting. You don't want to amp yourself up and use any of this gear prematurely. So you want to refrain from any action, whether actual or perceived, that can be offensive, insulting, illegal, unethical, whatever unethical means to you. Illegal has a definition. You want to avoid that type of stuff because you can draw the attention of other folks there at the protest in the law. Okay, so that's your goal, not to do either one of those things. This also includes verbal exchanges, gestures, other forms of provocation. You want to just avoid all that stuff whenever necessary. Your goal is to get home to your family. Even if you don't agree with, or if you agree with the protest, you should have a goal to get your ass home to your family. At least that's my goal, and that's why I like to follow this stuff. Now, there's a thing that we use in the military, or if you're part of the government, it's called OPSEC, or operational security. You can use that in your personal life as well. Maybe don't identify where you work if they're going to care about stuff like that. Maybe you don't identify where you live or your entire first and last name. Don't self-dox yourself. Have a little bit of operational security. Don't tell them what your vehicle looks like. Don't tell them how much money you got on them. Don't tell them anything that can jeopardize your OPSEC. Think about that in your personal life as well. Now, that's you verbally saying stuff, but you also may want to put away badges, any affiliations. If you have certain things on your shirt or whatever that could jeopardize your OPSEC, then maybe cover it up or put a badge away or put identification away, slip it in your pocket. Like, that's you still letting people know what's going on in your life without actually saying it. Now, I kind of give you a lot of scenarios for if you're on foot, but it's highly likely, especially this being America, you're going to be in vehicle operations and you could possibly go to an area that's protest. Well, I guess you're going to know what I'm going to say here. Don't drive to areas where you know that there's a protest. I think that kind of goes without being said. So area avoidance, that's pretty self-explanatory, because if you drive near those situations, there is a potential chance for entrapment risk, your vehicle being entrapped in a protest. You don't want to mow people down because that's illegal. And now how the hell do you get out of there? You abandon your vehicle, you risk it being destroyed or damaged or vandalized. But that also includes traffic awareness and road awareness. Maybe you don't go straight to the protest, but you still need to do navigation planning. Ensure that you know the best routes to avoid traffic, to avoid folks that are going to be getting in their cars after a protest and still be amped up. You want to have non-engagement, no type of road rage under no circumstance whatsoever when you're behind the wheel of a vehicle. I guess this is a life lesson for all. Should you engage with your vehicle? I would also advise you from not making yourself a witness. I will refrain from taking photos and videos unless there is just a blatant crime going on. You do feel the need or feel deep inside of you to take a photo or take a video of that, and you're prepared to be a witness. Me personally, I don't intend to be whipping out the camera because people get agitated over that stuff. Sometimes you doing that makes you a direct target. So maybe caution yourself when it becomes being a witness. So photography and video might be a no-no, but that's going to be up to you. This is your pre-encounter plan. I just laid out everything on how to avoid it, but now I'm going to give you the last part of your pre-encounter plan because it may be inevitable that you're not able to avoid this stuff. And some of this gear here may help you out if you find yourself in this situation. Now, for personal protection and escape, some of the stuff that I'm going to recommend here, first and foremost, is going to be pepper gel or mace, whichever one you see fit for use cases. So the thing is that the most common and generally legal safe defense tool in almost all 50 states, most states just have a restriction on size. Maybe they have a restriction on age of carrier, concealment places, etc. But for the most part, you can carry pepper gel or mace in most states. Caveat, check your local laws. Don't listen to some guy on the internet for any of the crap that I'm showing you, because you're not going to blame Marine X because you didn't know you couldn't have this many ounces of pepper gel and it really needed to be half an ounce. That's going to be on you. But the pros about this is that these are relatively inexpensive. They're low risk to bystanders, and it does give you a chance to escape, and they're relatively easy to carry. But there are very explicit cons to carrying pepper gel. First off, they require you to have good aim. If you suck at aiming, then this might not be for you. Their limited capacity may not penetrate thick clothing, and the effect of this thing may be temporary, and also it may blow back on you. Okay, so it is I like pepper gel more than mace because it's thicker, but it's still something that you can consider for purposes of beginning your escape plan. So the way you're going to carry that is you need to be wearing comfortable clothing and closed-toe shoes. I'll show you my favorite pair of boots that I wear almost every day, even in summer. They're about Thursday. And you don't need to wear steel toe. They may weigh you down for the purposes of running. Maybe you wear yourself some good sneakers, but I advise that you wear something that has a good sole to it and a good toe to it so that you can get your feet moving. And if you need to, you can do a kick or you can do an axe stomp. Also, closed toe shoes are critical. Don't wear the flops. Don't wear the Crocs. They're not going to help you. Also, cover as much of your body as possible. Okay, I'm not just saying protect yourself from the sun, but if things begin to get propelled in the air, tear gas, all that type of stuff, pepper gel used against you, the more clothing that you're wearing, the more you're protecting your skin, which I think is critical. And you also want to bring something like a haji rag, a bandana, a baklava or whatever. So yes, you can use this to protect yourself from the sun, but this can be an improvised mask as well. Put this over your face, wear it to cover the back of your neck. A lot of people out there are already going to be masked up or whatever, so you won't look like a sore thumb. And if they do begin to shoot out the smoke or the tear gas, you have a way as you're beginning to escape to give you a small layer of protection. Is this going to 100% work? No, best thing is a gas mask, but this is going to give you something that's better than nothing. Some other stuff here when it comes to the personal protection that I'm not going to necessarily bring with me, but you may want to consider is a whistle. A whistle's good at getting someone else's attention. Maybe you are being molested or harassed or whatever, and or you're hurt and you can't walk. A whistle will bring people attention towards you, but it's a protest. There's probably a lot of whistles out there anywhere. Or maybe a personal alarm that does at least 120 decibels. Usually those things, you pull them apart, they're extremely loud, they hurt people's ears. But the cons about those is that it hurts your ears too. Last thing when it comes to this is stun guns and tasers. I just don't think those are super effective, especially if people wearing thick clothing. You got to be accurate. You got to get it out. Maybe you want to carry one. I'm not going to carry one. I prefer, when it comes to non-lethals, my non-lethal is pepper gel. So next thing we got to talk about is, I think you should have a fixed blade knife. A fixed blade knife, and I believe the fixed blade knife should have the ability to keep it from slipping up your arm or your hand if you needed to use this for stabbing or for self-defense purposes. I know it may sound grim. I know that may sound like a lot, but if you have your finger here, it's a high likelihood that you're going to dislocate your pinky or break your pinky. But at least as if you have it here and you're using this, it's less likelihood that the knife slips up your hand and you cut yourself. If you get into a knife fight, you're going to get cut. But hopefully you can avoid that with a knife that has a ring. Now, the Montana Knife Company Mini Wargo is going to be hard to get your hands on. I like this for its size, 3-inch blade, overall 7 inches, easily concealable. Just make sure this is legal in your area. Great sheath. But if you want an alternative, basically a lot of different companies are making these knives that have rings on the end. This is the Tor Knife Serpent. Same concept. Get your hand in there. If you need it for fighting purposes or whatever, even if you want to do backwards fighting, whatever. This is a lethal. This is something that's going to help you if you needed it for the purposes of fighting out of a situation. And it's a good cutting tool. I advise a fixed blade way more than a folder, because you see what I just had to do. I had to get that out of my pocket, reposition it in my hand, and then open it. Okay, so if you oftentimes carry a folding knife, maybe you're super fast with it or whatever, but there is a very slim chance that you don't fully open the knife. You go to use it and then it collapses down on your hand or your finger. So I just feel more confident with a fixed blade versus a folder for these type of scenarios, because you just do not want to screw that up. Now, keeping on with that, I also believe that you should have a flashlight that has a strobe mode. I think it should have a good amount of spillage on it. So you don't want something that has like a very, very, very aggressive spot beam. That's not going to be very effective for you. This one does 8,000 lumens, is the Nikkor EDC 37. So it may not have the longest beam distance on Earth, but you can take this thing, strobe warning. So this is 8,000 lumens. That's 8,000 on strobe. This is going to be a distraction tool if you're trying to get yourself out of a sticky situation. The only thing that's kind of a downfall for escape with this is it doesn't have a red light. It would be good if you're trying to read documents or not draw as much attention to yourself, but it does have a low lumen mode of 15 lumens, which might be low enough for you to navigate and not draw too much attention to yourself. It does have the ceramic glass breakers in the front, so you can break glass or whatever the case may be. But I think it's also important to attach a lanyard to it, mainly because as you're using this, you want to try to figure out a way to not let this fall out, because it's high likelihood that at night you're going to keep your flashlight dangling. You're going to use it a lot more than your knife. So I'm normally not a big fan of lanyards on my flashlight, but this would be one case when I would suggest that you go for that. So next on the list is going to be a pen. Now, this is specifically the Atomic Bear pen. This is a lethal. It's a kind of a, I've seen a lot of folks where you can practice with these things and actually get good use case, because it does have a stab portion on the very tip of the pen, which is designed for you to put some pain on somebody. It also writes really, really well. It's well made, well crafted, very, very low likelihood that it collapses on itself if you have to use it for fighting purposes. So if you need to get scanned for identification for DNA in the future, that's what this is good for. And it's good for defense purposes, probably legal in most states as well. So you can keep that as well. Now, a lot of this stuff you may keep on your person or in a bag. I'll get to the bag later in the video. But one thing I think is insanely important, especially if you get caught up in these areas, is you need to have a way to tell time accurately. That's much better than a smartwatch, because that could die, it could fail. It's easier to break because they use the Gorilla Glass versus sapphire crystal. That's why I think it's incredibly important to go with today's video sponsor, which is Veer, and their C5 Tactical Solar Watch. This is their most popular selling solar watch in their tactical field line. The C5 is extremely accurate. 6 hours of sunlight would get you 6 months of reserve time. This thing can run off candlelight. It obviously can run off solar. It's called the Solar Watch. It comes with 2 watch straps. It's a blacked out mode with real good lume on this thing. So it's going to be easier to see the dial at nighttime. And especially if you get yourself a chance to see this big watch face at 40 millimeters, it's easier to read and see the numbers as you're wearing it on your wrist. It's very accurate. And here's the thing. I believe that as much as you like your smartwatch, they can draw people's attention because of notifications. As I mentioned earlier, they can die. This is much more reliable. And as the sun is still out, you can use this. You can figure out which way is south using this. So it becomes an impromptu compass. I think that's a lot better than a smartwatch that may go dead. And this thing is assembled in America. I think this looks really good. I like it much more than a smartwatch. And this is what I would take with me. Shout out to Vera for sponsoring today's video. Use the link on the screen or the link down below to get the best pricing on this watch. And this is one critical part of a kit if you get caught up in a protest. The next critical part is going to be a Sharpie. Okay, a Sharpie is important because if you need to write on your skin, if you get separated from your gear, if you become incapacitated, writing on yourself to let others know who to contact is important, because as authorities begin to rip away at your clothes, they will see whatever the hell you write on your skin, and that can help them contact someone. So make sure you bring this as well. It's going to be a good item for just, it's kind of like one of those tools we don't think about, but I think it's important to have. Now, this is important to ensure that you know your law, because grabbing and bringing yourself a boomstick or a firearm may not be legal, as I mentioned, when it comes to knives. That also comes to batons as well. Carrying a firearm in a protest is highly contentious. It's legal in Texas, may not be legal in your state. So make sure that you know your laws. This might be a scenario where you carry extra mags. This might be a scenario where you carry a larger capacity weapon. For me, I still want to keep it small. That is why I'm going to go with the Bodyguard M&P 380 by Smith & Wesson. Now, you may decide you want to go with something else, a subcompact or whatever. I want to appendix carry this at the 1 o'clock and just be able to keep it discreet and just have it as a last resort. But just make sure that before you get to that escalation of violence, you're trying to escape, but you always got that as a backup plan. Speaking of backup plan, keeping your actual phone alive is incredibly important in these scenarios. A battery bank, a cord, I think, is important, because if you're trying to escape and let your family know where you are, this might be a situation where you keep the Nicore. This is Gen 2 of the MB 10,000 milliamp hour carbon fiber battery bank and the InCharge rolling square cable. You can fast charge almost any device with these bad boys. This is a 6-in-1 cable, so it's going to be able to do old school iPhones. It's going to be able to do USB Type-C, USB Type-A. It has everything you need to just charge most any devices. This is why I like this so much. But that way you can keep this and charge your devices as needed and still be able to keep in contact with your family. As you continue going through the process, you find yourself caught up, you're thinking about what you're going to do next. Always think about a med kit. And the thing about a med kit is that you can DIY it. You can buy a pre-built one. This is just a pouch that I got from Vertex. And in here is just like more like ouchie boo-boo type stuff, some gauze, some bandages, triangle bandages and stuff like that. And just be able to have what you think you may need for that specific outing. Now, you can go extreme. You can get Israeli bandages. You can get yourself some SWAT tourniquets or some real North American standard type of tourniquets. You can do a lot of different things, but just a few things to ensure that you can stop even the smallest amount of bleeding. Now, if you are thinking about there may be a chance for some sunken chest wounds, then you're going to need some chest seals, but a little type of med kit is going to matter. You can sprain an ankle, you can scrape a leg, you can fall. The biggest thing I'm concerned about is falling and just cleaning up scrapes. Now, if you're moving through different areas, you may want the ability to cut, remove, or wiggle stuff out of its place. So a multi-tool might be important. This is the next torch Pioneer, but you can go with a lot of different brands, a lot of different stuff. The biggest reason I say a multi-tool might be beneficial is because you want the ability to cut through different small papers or plastics, zip ties, etc. Or you also want the ability to cut through pieces of metal that are tolerable. So this has wire cutters inside of it. It's going to be hard to get through fencing with this small of pliers, But, you know, just to have different options, which you are going to be very, very important. The biggest thing is having the ability to not just be stuck behind something. This thing also has built into it slotted screwdrivers, Phillips screwdrivers, has an oxygen tank tool, but I don't need that. But just anything I could think of to just be able to, if I encounter something that has a Phillips or a slotted screwdriver or fastener, I don't want to be just stuck because I literally can't take that thing apart or fasten it together. So a multi-tool is critical. And if you get something stuck in a body part, if you get a hook through yourself, a nail through yourself, you're going to need a tetanus shot later, but you might want to get that object out of your body so that you can at least try to address the wound. And a multi-tool pliers are going to be best to try to do stuff like that. Cordage is something that I think about. This can come in handy for a number of things. Straps break. If you're trying to tie or restrain a door, you may need cordage for all sorts of stuff. 550 cord is going to be what I'm going to go with. 550 pounds of test for this. You can go with a smaller cord at like 200 pounds of test. It might be thinner. You might have the opportunity to carry more of it. This small 550 holder by Atwood rope manufacturer. I like this because it can cut the cordage. It can store the cordage. You can hang this entire thing via its built-in little hook area right here. And you can burn the cordage by adding your own Bic lighter in the very bottom of this. So this is just all in one, just have enough cordage. I also recommend that you get a lock and just forget about the key. If you need to evac, if you're trying to regress, if you're trying to get into a building or lock something like that, you're being chased, God forbid. Between this cordage and tying it around a door and just slapping a lock on there and continue to run, that might give you a little bit of time if you're trying to escape out of a situation. Now, I do have the key for this specifically. If you want something thinner, you can get like a TSA style lock that has a combination to it or whatever, just to try to slow the people that may be chasing you down, that may be hot on your tail. You can also have a mini survival kit of extra additional items that you see fit. I don't want to specifically name this or name that, but just anything that you think might be helpful for you, whether it's additional cordage, a signaling mirror, some fireproof, some waterproof matches, some type of survival kits, anything that you think might be helpful for you, you can create a small kit and keep that with you as well. Now, even all of that is important to have. I believe you need the ability to have water with you already, and you should have the ability to get some water from a side of a building like that. Even if you are gonna get water from like a local creek or whatever, I believe that a gray old water bottle is helpful and beneficial for you to be able to filter through those pathogens and those microplastics in that water so that you can drink it. And it's important to have water with you to flush out your eyes. We talked about earlier, long sleeves, a Haji rag to try to block from any type of smoke or tear gas. If those things happen, or if you were to accidentally get some of your own pepper gel in your face, being able to flush out your own eyes may be beneficial. So you should have water with you as well. Now, I talked about a bag. Now, there's a lot of different bag options that you can go with. Me particularly, I want to go with a bag that has a higher level of tear resistance, knife resistance. It's not proof, it's not tear proof or knife proof, but the GoRuck GR2 Dyneema or anything Dyneema, Chrome Industries is doing it. GoRuck has other bags in Dyneema. Dyneema is 15 times stronger than steel when it comes to the makeup of the weave pattern. This is really designed for you to go through brush and woods and twigs and stuff like that. Branches not ripped through your bag, but it does have a level of resistance to knives, someone trying to rip this off or whatever. It's not going to be 100% foolproof, but I wanted this in black because it is a little bit more discreet. Everybody and their mom's going to have a black bag at a protest. It has a lot of room inside, being 25 liters. You're going to be able to put whatever the heck you want to in here. Outfit this with laptops. You could outfit this with Molly capable items. Put them in here. This is basically a GR1 with an extra additional layer in the front. It expands it out to make it 25 liters instead of going up, making it 25 liters. So plenty of room in the side of this bad boy. Now, if you don't want to spend that much money on something, all I recommend is just get yourself a backpack. Don't get a crossbody bag or a sling, because running full speed with a crossbody or sling always gets awkward. I don't care who makes it. It can be Alpaca or Vertex or 511 or Ebly stock. Crossbody slings and crossbody bags just get awkward when you're running with them. Wear a backpack if you're wearing that. You can definitely be more efficient for sprinting with something like that. One important thing to also remember for me personally is it's really important that you do not resist arrest. If you are in a riot or a protest and you're coming down and they're clamping down on folks and they're slapping zip ties on people, don't resist arrest. Okay. You could sort it all out and explain why you were in the area later. If that's what you want to, you got a Fifth Amendment right to not have to do that. Don't sign any paperwork. I'm not a lawyer, but these are the things I'm not going to be doing. You are allowed to ask why the hell I am being arrested, but you shouldn't be resisting arrest. So while they're slapping the zip ties on you, ask, why am I being arrested? Am I being detained? Is this voluntary? Those are the 3 levels here in Texas. If it's voluntary, I'm walking the F away. If I'm detained, I can't leave, but I'm not arrested yet. And if I'm arrested, I can ask why the hell I'm being arrested. So that's my recommendation when it comes to anything that may get you caught up in a protest unexpectedly. Comment down below, what am I missing from this list? What are some things that you would absolutely have in your oops, I'm in a protest kit? I don't know what the hell to call it, but is there anything that you would absolutely add to it? Anything you might want to take away? I would love to know what your comments down below. If this is your first time stopping by, hey, I appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you a part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. Listen, I'm going to put a video up on the screen that explains why you may just want to stay indoors this summer and not go to protest at all. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.